what I really wanted to focus on was the fact that during 2023, when Senate Bill 1100 was going through the legislative process, and this bill would have instructed school districts to make a policy that would segregate bathrooms and locker rooms and all sorts of sensitive areas where girls find privacy in, to keep those segregated based by biological sex. This whole notion of the so-called gender identity would not be a factor in any of this. And so during that time, there was also, you came forward and just kind of walk me through a little bit about you didn't ask for this thing to happen to you. And so walk me through a little bit what you were discussing with your parents, I think at the time, and what you hoped to accomplish and whether or not you wanted to come forward publicly.
So when I dealt with the situation in the bathroom, I went to the counselor. I think it was the vice principal at the time. And since I was told I couldn't really be helped at all, it was very frustrating and I was crying even to her. I went home and I told my parents, I called my parents right away after that happened, and I didn't have that many classes, so I just got through my other class. And when I went home, I told them what happened, and I was really frustrated because I was just, I think, in a lot of shock, because why would I ever expect for that to happen? So I just decided, I started discussing it with them, and my mom ended up posting it, I think, on her Facebook page with other local parents that might have issues with the schools, like, oh, this is going on, or your kids, like, do your kids deal with these things? And she just wanted some advice, I think. And that's when I believe Matt reached out to my mom, and she brought that to my attention, that some guy wanted to do an interview about what happened at CHS. And she told me that it was my decision on whether or not I wanted to do that, and I decided I wanted to. Just for that to end up going further to a school board meeting, which before I ended up going to the school board meeting, my parents, they just told me, they were like, if you decide not to speak, because I was also sick at the time, I was very sick, but they just told me, they were like, if you decide not to speak, we're going to support you, because we know it's a big thing to do, and it's totally up to you. You're an adult, you get to choose it. But if you do decide to speak, we're going to back you up in every single way. And I think that was the biggest thing that helped me speak. I also grew up with a dad who always told me, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so that also, of course, is built into my core. So that definitely helped too.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're watching footage here of when you went to, there's the high school that you attended. And then the footage in here is you at that board meeting, which was packed. I mean, I was there, and it was standing room only at a certain point. Yeah, so basically, I think one of the reasons, I mean, the main reason why I wanted to have you on again is because I feel like that, our legislators, our current attorney general, have been working very hard to defend, to pass legislation like Senate Bill 1100, which would have instructed school districts to create a policy to make sure that girls like yourself were kept safe and felt safe in those situations, restrooms, locker rooms, and such. But also, so they work hard to get those bills passed, and they get a lot of heat from the left side of the aisle and the wackadoodles on the other side about these issues. But they get a lot of heat, but they move forward. They debate it really hard, and then it becomes law. And then there's lawsuits and all this stuff defending, attacking it. And then guys like Attorney General Raul Labrador out there trying to make sure that this law stays intact. And at the same time, these things continue to happen in schools. I'm not the only one that people have reached out to and said, "Hey, this happened, but we're afraid to come forward." I've talked to legislators, I've talked to city of other school board members, and they say, yeah, and teachers, and they say, students have come to me with an issue, but they won't come forward. And if you don't come forward, then all the work that the legislators are doing, all the work that the attorney general is doing, seems to be kind of a waste. Because I mean, if you don't come forward, then how do we know that these things are going on, and how can we properly enforce the law? What can you say to students out there, to families out there that are in a similar situation that you had? What can you say to them to help them understand that there are people out there that will help them and protect them?
Yeah, so I definitely would say, I mean, one major thing I learned from the whole experience is that it just takes one person to come forward. And although that seems very scary in the moment, because I'm not going to downplay it, um, it's the right thing to do. And it helps others like look at you in a different light. Not that you're doing it for that reason, but they see, oh, I can speak up. And maybe someday later in their life, they're able to do what they need to do in the right moment. I had lots of girls contact me and come to me at school saying thank you. Like, I wanted to say something, but I was too scared to say something. And they're like, you did so good. I'm so glad you came forward. And I would just say it just takes one person, like, and be
Yeah.
that person.
Well, and then in your case, we're looking at footage right now. This girl at that same school board meeting, I had no one, I didn't know that this was going to happen, but she stood up and basically told a similar story as you, that she saw the exact same boy in another restroom at another time. And when she went to go tell a teacher about it, the teacher laughed in her face, and so she didn't know what she could do. Do you know this girl? Did you get to meet her afterwards? I mean, this is the type of person I think that was inspired by what you did, right?
Yeah, so I knew of her before. Obviously, I saw her at school, but I was never really like friends with her, I'd say. And then after, she ended up reaching out to me saying, uh, she, I think somehow she knew I was going to the school board meeting. Not really sure how, but she said that she might go and speak there. And I told her, I encouraged her. I said, of course, like you should definitely do it because the more voices that come out, the more likely that this is going to go the way we would like it to go. Um, and so she ended up coming, which I thought was amazing because obviously it's the right thing to do is to speak out, to tell the truth, because of course parents and adults aren't going to know what's going on in our schools. So,
Yeah. What and now how does it feel to know that the law that passed that would have protected you, or at least been on the books to protect you, is now sitting in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where the Ninth Circuit said that schools can just go back to doing what they were doing before, and we'll decide this matter later. How does that? Oh, look at that moment there, you guys hugging. Wow, that's that's really cool. Yeah, so sorry. So how does that make you feel knowing that right now in Idaho, that law is on hold and districts can either have this policy of protecting you or they don't need to have it? How does that make you feel at this point?
I think it's really frustrating because, like I experienced, I mean, I was the one who spoke out. I'm glad I did. Um, but a lot of people don't speak out, and it's just gonna keep being pushed under the rug, and the right thing's gonna become the wrong thing eventually. I mean, that's what they're pushing for. Um, it's very frustrating. It's sad. It's scary for girls because a lot can happen. And unfortunately, it's just totally evil in my opinion. It's of the world and yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it's it's just disappointing. for
Yeah.
sure.
And I imagine some of the fears that people have about coming forward are that they are going to be, put under the microscope and scrutinized and called a liar or worse, or just, called names by other people that don't believe them or that think that they're bigoted or whatever the case may be. What sort of negativity did you encounter when you came out? And then also what was the counter effect? What were the positive things that happened to you when you came out on this?
Okay, so the negative things, nothing was in person, I will say that, and I'm thankful for that. I know going into the whole situation, I was praying a lot because I wanted God to guide me in the right way. After the school board meeting, I did expect some backlash for sure, because it's not a perfect world. People aren't gonna like what I say. um, I ended up getting some hate comments on my Instagram feed, which was public at the time. And then I did get a death threat, sorry, from someone in Hawaii. So that really couldn't affect me because they're in Hawaii and I'm in
Sure.
Idaho. Um, but yeah, everything was online. And I will have to say the people that were hating against me, it was obvious that they were of all of the same belief, on the left side. But as much as that's easy to focus on, which at a point I will say I did focus on it and I got upset and I ended up just praying a whole bunch and God took care of me and he focused my eyes back on what was right. And I noticed, wow, so few hate comments and there was so much support and love from people around me. Like people I didn't really know. And I thought, oh, they know my name. Oh, I guess so. I talked at a school board meeting, but they were just like sending me texts, messages on Instagram, stuff like that. I had some teachers speak to me privately saying that I did such a great job and people need to speak up because it can't be pushed under the rug because it's going to keep happening if that's what's going to be the effect of it. Um, but yeah, I had a lot of love from people. I was surprised. I mean, I spoke at the board meeting and everybody stood up. Like my
Yeah.
eyes filled with tears. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I did not expect that at all." It was it was amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you are like I said, you are such a brave person and very articulate. You got a good head on your shoulders. You know exactly where to keep focus, and and that's so good to see. Not going to let this affect you, so that's great. I know you didn't ask for any of this. You weren't seeking this kind of attention, and it's really unfortunate that just normal everyday people are being put into these situations. So I commend you again for coming on here. It's been almost 2 years since we've seen each other, at least in this capacity. So thank you, Julie, for coming on. And I wish you the best so much. And we'll definitely keep tabs on this and let you know what's going on in the state. And maybe at some point you'll need to go testify down at Boise. I'm going to wrangle you to go do that. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you for coming on, Julie.
Thank you.